Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Courts This Week presented by LiveLaw. I am your host, Ostika Das. In this episode, we are going to talk about the latest legal development with respect to Om Roth's Adipurush, Supreme Court's decision regarding the government's suspension of several Hajj group organizers' registration certificates, West Bengal government's plea against Calcutta High Court's direction to the State Election Commission to request central forces to be deployed for the Panchayat elections in the state, and more. Let's begin. In May, the union government had suspended the registration certificates in quotas of a number of Hajj group organizers and issued show cause notices to them citing complaints of default. For those who are unaware, Hajj group organizers are government-approved group tour operators that organize the annual Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. However, the suspension of the registration certificates and quotas was challenged before the Delhi High Court, which stayed the decision earlier this month. The bench emphasized that the rights of the pilgrims who intended to embark on the pilgrimage and had paid in advance for it ought to be protected. Justice Chandradhari Singh of the High Court opined that Hajj was not merely a holiday but a medium of practicing their religion and faith for Muslims, and as such was covered under the religious practices protected under Article 25. This week, a Supreme Court bench refused to entertain an appeal filed by the central government against the order of the Delhi High Court on the ground that the High Court was already scheduled to hear it in July. Additionally, the top court has also mentioned that the union government should allow pilgrims to go on Hajj without the psychological pressure caused by ongoing litigation. The northeastern state of Manipur has been witnessing a fresh wave of ethnic clashes between the tribal Nagas and Kukis and the non-tribal Meitei community over a High Court order asking the government to consider including Meiteis in the scheduled tribe list. Since the outbreak of violence in the beginning of May, several petitions have been filed before the Supreme Court, including one by the Manipur Tribal Forum Delhi, seeking a probe by a special investigation team into the violence as well as compensation for the victims, a petition challenging the direction of the Manipur High Court, and a plea challenging the internet ban imposed in the state since 3rd May. Recently, after the renewed violence, the Manipur Tribal Forum filed a fresh interlocutory application stating that the empty assurances made by the Union of India could not be relied on by the top court, and it ought to direct the deployment of the army to take full control of the law and order and public order situation in the violence-hit districts of Manipur. While mentioning the application for urgent listing, senior advocate Colin Gonsalves argued that despite government assurances to curb violence, 70 tribals had already been killed, necessitating immediate action. However, a vacation bench of the Supreme Court refused to urgently list the interlocutory application during the ongoing summer vacation and instead scheduled the matter for July after the Supreme Court reopens. Ahead of the single-phased Panchayat polls in West Bengal in July, the Supreme Court has upheld a decision of the Calcutta High Court directing the West Bengal State Election Commission to request central forces for all districts during the local body elections. The High Court order was passed in a public interest litigation petition filed by Bharatiya Janata Party leader Shubhendu Adhikari after noting that no appreciable steps had been taken despite an earlier order instructing that sensitive areas be earmarked and forces be deployed. This order was challenged before the Apex Court by the West Bengal government as well as the State Election Commission. However, the Supreme Court held that there was no cause for interfering with the impugned order since its tenor was ultimately to ensure that free and fair elections were conducted across the state. Earlier this month, DMK leader V. Senthil Balaji and Tamil Nadu minister in the MK Stalin-led government was arrested by the Enforcement Directorate for his alleged role in a cash for jobs scam in the state. This development came after the Supreme Court in May set aside a direction of the Madras High Court staying the proceedings in the money laundering case lodged by the Enforcement Directorate, effectively removing all fetters to the investigation. After the minister's arrest, his family members filed a habeas corpus petition before the High Court praying inter alia that the legislator be allowed to be shifted to a private hospital to undergo medical treatment. The Enforcement Directorate, however, challenged the High Court agreeing to take the petition on board, arguing that it was not maintainable. But a vacation bench of the Supreme Court has adjourned the hearing in the central agency's plea, choosing to wait for the High Court to deliver its verdict first. The District Panchayat of Kannur in Kerala has filed an application before the Supreme Court urging the humane euthanization of suspected rabid dogs and extremely dangerous dogs on the ground of an alleged uptick in human-dog conflict in the district. The petition highlights several incidents where stray dogs have attacked people, particularly children, living in the district. A vacation bench of the Supreme Court agreed to hear the petition and issued notice. This matter will be taken up once the court reopens after the summer break. It may be pertinent to note that this is not the first time in the recent past that the Supreme Court took cognizance of the human-dog conflict. In November, the top court had also stayed an unusual order passed by the Nagpur bench of the Bombay High Court, prohibiting feeding of street dogs in all public places unless the feeders adopted the dogs. The High Court claimed that this was an attempt to address the menace of street dogs. However, the Supreme Court disagreed while hearing an appeal and suspended this operative portion that allowed the local authorities to take coercive action against people who fed dogs in public places in the city of Nagpur, besides directing designated areas to be demarcated for feeding of stray dogs. The Kerala High Court has set aside an order passed by a single judge directing Kannur University to re-examine the credentials of Priya Varghese. The single judge had held that Varghese did not possess the requisite teaching experience to be appointed as an associate professor and directed the university to revisit her credentials and decide whether she should continue on the rank list. For those who are unaware, Varghese is the wife of K.K. Ragesh, Private Secretary to Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan. Varghese's appointment was originally stayed by Governor Arif Muhammad Khan last year in his capacity as the Chancellor of Universities in the state. Khan had alleged that Kannur University's move to appoint her was political in nature. Not surprisingly, this received considerable media coverage. While allowing Varghese's appeal, the division bench held that while the time spent by non-faculty PhD candidates in obtaining a doctoral degree would not contribute to their teaching experience, but if a regular faculty member pursues their doctoral research simultaneously with their teaching assignment, the period spent in obtaining the PhD degree would be counted as teaching experience. Not only this, the bench also heavily criticized the media for the nature of coverage with respect to this case and underscored the importance of the right to privacy of litigants and proper journalistic conduct. The High Court also said that an individual's right to privacy was not only applicable in relation to the state, but also extended to private entities such as the media. In a significant decision, the Madras High Court has observed that untouchability encompassed not only caste-based practices, but also all forms of social exclusion and ostracism, rooted in notions of ritual purity, pollution, hierarchy, and subordination, therefore giving a wide import to the language of Article 17 of the Constitution. This observation was made by the court while disposing of a plea filed by a senior advocate against the Madras Bar Association, alleging that his son was prevented by the association from drinking water at the Bar Association's hall. The senior advocate, who has since passed away, also accused the Bar Association of engaging in practices rooted in casteism and attempting to create an elite group of lawyers by making it harder for ordinary lawyers to get membership. While dismissing a plea filed by an interfaith live-in couple seeking protection against alleged harassment at the hands of the police, the Allahabad High Court has observed that the views expressed by the Supreme Court pertaining to live-in relationships cannot be considered to promote such relationships. These observations were made while refusing to grant protection to a 29-year-old Hindu woman and a 30-year-old Muslim man who are in a live-in relationship. The couple was forced to approach the court after the police allegedly harassed them on the basis of an FIR lodged by the woman's mother. The High Court was unwilling to issue a writ, saying that the court's extraordinary jurisdiction was not made to resolve such type of disputes between private parties. The bench said that any real grievance of a live-in couple against their parents or relatives who are allegedly interfering with their live-in status, which goes to such an extent that there is a threat to life or property, could be addressed by lodging an FIR or approaching the magistrate. Observing that traditionally law has been biased in favor of marriage, the bench also stressed upon the need to create awareness in young minds regarding the emotional and societal pressures and legal hassles which may be created by such relations. Om Roth's Adipurush has been making splashes both in the box office and the courtroom. Days after a PIL was filed before Delhi High Court by Hindu Sena against the public exhibition of the movie, which is based on the Indian epic Ramayana, another petition has been filed before the Rajasthan High Court seeking a ban on the movie. The petitioner has objected to the allegedly derogatory language in the dialogues delivered by some of the characters. The petitioner has also claimed that the depiction of the Hindu epic in this movie gives the wrong message to younger generation of the country. We have come to an end of this episode. Courts This Week is a special segment where we bring to you the most pertinent legal developments that took place last week from across the country. If you liked our compilation, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Drop a comment below with your suggestions and feedback, and also let us know what you thought of this week's legal developments. Hit the bell icon on YouTube to get notifications whenever we upload a video, and visit our website www.livelaw.in to read our detailed reports. This is your host Ostika Das, and I will see you again next time.